piece of broccoli in my mouth. I hope that doesn't screw up our interview.
Not at all.
Very good broccoli.
No, should I edit this out, Kiff, or leave it in? We'll see how it looks.
Please use it. I think it'll be great.
How are you?
I'm really good.
You're so busy, man. You're like one of the busiest guys, and I haven't seen you in really a couple of years.
A couple. It's been even longer, man. It has to be. When was the last time we saw each other?
Was that at George's wedding?
I wasn't at George's wedding.
I told my wife. She goes, I met Kiff at George's wedding. I said, I don't think it was Kiff.
No. Nuh-uh.
It's got to be over 10 years, I'm sure.
Easily, yeah. Probably with Rogers doing something, maybe.
Yeah, possibly, yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Boy, that's another guy, man. Jeff Rogers, that guy saved my life in Chicago. We moved to Chicago with nothing. You know, Sherry had just finished a show at Alabama Shakespeare Festival. We moved there, and Maria Carell, my dear friend and another Second City alumni, she was like, "Come hang out with Jeff. You know Jeff from Second City of Detroit from doing Bizco stuff. Come see him."
Yes, so he yelled at us all the time. Yes,
he yelled at us all the time, and he yelled at me all the time. But what he also did was he trained me to go from being, sketch comedy, stupid, funny guy, to having a business acumen and having an awareness of clarity of what I needed to communicate, dress professionally, and still deliver great comedy. And watching that guy work a room of 700, 800, 900 people was awe-inspiring. And
let me get to this. I want to start at the beginning. Is that cool? Because
yeah.
So you're from Michigan, though, right?
Yeah, I'm from Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Grand Rapids, Michigan. So when did you start doing? Was it acting first, or was it improv first?
It was acting first.
Was it in high school?
Yeah, like I did some shows in high school. I always had part of it was 1983, that Christmas. No, 1984, that Christmas, my parents bought the family a VCR.
Yeah.
And I was already doing mimicking and kind of picking up cartoon characters and live movies and all that other kind of stuff. But we got this VCR, and the first night I set it to tape, Saturday Night Live. And the first sketch that thing taped was Martin Short as Ed Grimley.
Oh, fantastic.
Doing the Wheel of Fortune audition for that episode. And
that's the first time you saw Saturday Night Live?
I had seen Saturday Night Live here and there, but it was the first time I had really watched a full episode. Like I loved Eddie Murphy, who didn't, and whenever he did Mr. Robinson's Neighborhood, my parents would wake me up and he's doing the thing, come and see it. Awesome. But the season that I really got hooked on Saturday Night Live, even I'd seen the clips of the old days with Chevy and Dan and Murray and Belushi and Gilda and everybody, but my cast is Billy Crystal.
We're gonna get into that,
right? We'll get there. Marty Short, Chris Guest, Julie Louis-Dreyfus, Jim Belushi, Gary Kroger. Like that was my Saturday Night Live cast. That's just who they were, and knowing so many of them had come through. At least Marty Short had come through Second City,
right?
I was aware of them, and that I think that was a pivot point for me that really set a new North Star. I mean, I love sketch comedy. I love comedy, but I didn't know that sketch comedy was a thing because it just wasn't a stand-up. You know what I mean? I didn't have that stand-up draw, but the situational stuff, like what I saw in Ghostbusters and Blues Brothers, and all those things really appealed to me.
So how old were you then?
15.
15. So you were
between 13, 14, 15, like in that awkward teenage years where, and that was like, I'm 50, right? So like that summer was Ghostbusters and but we got back to we just had that stretch of spectacular movies, and like the popular culture that was going on at that time was so vibrant and so dynamic and so original that it really it was a siren song to me.
Was it right then that you knew you wanted to do sketch comedy?
It was right then that I wanted to do sketch comedy. No, I think when I wanted to do sketch comedy, honestly, like I did it all through high school. We would write original pieces and discover if we had the chops for it or if I had the chops for it. And then when I was in high school, I worked I grew up near a mental institution called Pine Rest Christian Hospital, and part of their outreach program was to do role playing. So we would go to different events and we would role play cases to protect the identity of the the patients, but then also to open a dialogue with the community and say, look, mental health is for everyone. And that was one of the jobs I had all through high school was role playing. So it was about, that was heavy improv, and I loved it. It just wasn't jokey.
Right.
And then when I got to college, I did a lot of sketch writing.
Now you went to college in Ohio, right?
No, I went in Grand Rapids. I went to Calvin College.
Oh, why did I think that was in Ohio? I'm sorry. That's
all right. I'm mostly Michigan. I happened to live in Ohio because of my ex-wife was at Bowling Green State University.
Okay, that was it.
That was it. So I was doing some things around there in the community.
Because you and I did a workshop. Didn't we do a workshop together?
Yeah, we did. We did
an
improv workshop at Bowling Green. That's right.
That's right. Wow.
That's so great.
That is funny.
What
made you go from there to so how did you get involved in Second City? That's got to be a story. I don't know.
Mary Jane Porres, and Mark Evan Jackson and myself they had a conversation. They're like, we need to talk to Kiff. And I was in BG. And they called me up and they're like, hey, we want to get together and just do something. We're having fun, kind of messing around, doing our own thing here in Grand Rapids, but we're looking for some kind of creative outlet beyond what we're doing. And wondered if you want to get together. So we got together and we spent the day together in BG. They came down and we wrote a bunch of ideas and just talked about creative ideas and just kind of really connected in a really cool way. And it was surprising and inspiring and just kind of like, this is great. I don't know what this is, but it should be something. And then about 6 weeks later, I got a call from them. They're like, you're not going to believe where we're on. We're on our way driving to Detroit right now to audition for Second City in Detroit. I was like, there's a Second City in Detroit? And they were like, yeah, and we're going to go audition. And I believe MJ got cast and Jackson got brought in as a piano player, if memory serves.
Yes, yeah.
And that was, so it was like, oh, that's amazing. And then I went back home over Christmas to do a River City Improv show. Mm-hmm. And I think Jackson was either dating Kathy at that point. I don't remember exactly what was going on, but they were pals. And she came to see the improv show. And afterwards, like, we're going to have auditions. You should come. And this was in 97. So in the middle of it, I know she was co-directing Tourco with you.
Yeah.
So let's see. In the middle of all that, I was going through the kidney transplant. So I was donating a kidney to my dad.
Yeah.
And I remember, I'll never forget the audition, because like when I went to audition at Second City, I had taken Improv 1 with Jackson and was gearing up to take Improv 2 with Mary Jane, but they were like, you know what you're doing, but just, this is good to get the lexicon. So when I went to the audition, I remember standing on stage with Dustin Gardner and the question came up of like, what's something that makes you angry? Let's play that game. We'll play rants. What's something that makes you, who are you and what makes you angry? And I remember saying, my name's Kiff VandenHeuvel, and I'm donating a kidney to my dad, and they keep losing the 24-hour urinalysis. I got to do it a third time. I have to collect my urine for 24 hours for a third time because of lab incompetence. So if I get called back, I have to come here on Friday with a Playmate cooler, and inside that Playmate cooler will be my urine. So I'm very embarrassed about that, but I'm telling you that because I'm pissed off about that. And Dustin was next to me, and he looked at me and he went, my name's Dustin Gardner and I hate traffic.
That's awesome. I remember your audition.
Do you really?
I do. And I remember Mary Jane. I remember Jackson's too. And I remember Larry. I mean, I was there for all of them. So
yeah,
but certain people stick up in my mind. Yours and Larry's, I remember so clearly. Yeah.
That's so wild.
It was wild.
So funny.
Auditioning there was crazy because we would audition for 4 or 5 days, and it would be hours and hours a day, plus callbacks, plus it was insane.
And we had a massive group. Like you cast, like for understudies, there were a ton of us.
Yeah, well, we did Tourco understudies. We were looking for corporate people. It was always crazy.
Yeah.
So you start to I don't remember. You took classes though, right? You did take.
I took 2 classes, and then I wanted, so there was improv 1, improv 2.
Who did you who did you
I had
take?
I had Mary Jane for 2. I had
Oh, that's
Jackson
funny.
for 1, and then 3. I was itching to get in, but everyone wanted to get into 3 because the way we had structured that was character. So, and I was kind of leaning on Rico, like, "Hey, man, you cast me." And I know the benefit of casting, and I don't know if you remember, but man, I went to every rehearsal. I was always there. I'd leave work early, drove up from Toledo, and come and sit and watch and wait. And I mean, I was a zealot. And Rico was like, "Well, I can't let you into the class because they're overfull, but would you teach?" I was like, "Sure." Oh, okay. And I got level 1. I got a level 1. I remember I had Jamie Moyer in that class, who's come out here and done great. And like, I was so freaking nervous, but like, it just, that particular space really, I mean, that's really where I first started teaching, was back in like 98, 99. And I've never stopped.
Yeah, it's something I'll never stop doing either. It's something that I love doing. Our tour that you were in, my touring company.
Yeah.
We had a kick-ass touring company.
We had an amazing touring company.
Kathy. It was amazing. Yeah.
Me, Topher, Fritz, Lisa Mellon.
Yep.
This was like, I moved up right after, how did that go? Oh, like, because I was there. I remember coming in, it was when I met Sherry. Because like, I came in and like, both Twan and Warzy moved up to main stage, and Mary Vanette. And then Sherry got moved in or came in. I remember coming into Tourco rehearsal. It was like this atom bomb had blown up, and it was like, all right, well, here we go. Here's our cast. Yeah. And I mean, and we got Carrie Crimmin, and I mean, it was so fantastic. And we did great work, and we improvised well together. The shows we wrote were great.
Yeah.
It was, I mean,
who did you understudy on the main stage? Tell us your main stage appearance.
My main stage appearance was, I understudied Warzeka. Okay. So when he did 19th Nervous Breakdown, I understudied him. And then after, and both Fritz and I understudied him. And then when Warzy left, then Fritz moved up. And then I started directing Tourco, because Fritz had been directing Tourco at that time. Right. And then after that, when Keegan left, and Keegan went to Chicago, then I took his slot. So you I joined main stage on Merry-Go-Round.
And how many shows did you do?
I did 3 reviews in Detroit, and then
Ohio, Cleveland.
And I did 2 in Cleveland.
Right, because I went down to Cleveland and saw you. Yeah.
Yeah, that was your Baghdaddy, and Chad Kruger was our music director, and
just great stuff. It's a shame that Cleveland didn't
man.
Detroit also.
Yeah, right, exactly.
So
but, go ahead.
I was going to say, from Ohio, then you go to Second City, Chicago, right?
Yeah. Theater closes in Cleveland. Sherry gets Alabama Shakespeare Festival.
Right.
We moved to Toledo because I was driving to Detroit 3 times a week for auditions.
You were always there.
I was always there, doing corporate things, I did a video game out of there. I got a job for Rockstar Games. I booked out of Detroit.
Yeah.
It was the only place as a union actor to work. In Cleveland is a great city, but there was a limited amount of union work I could audition for. So I would either go to Pittsburgh or I would go to Detroit.
Yeah.
And I had a great relationship with my representatives, in all 3 cities, but Detroit, they would always call me in, and I'd move mountains to get there. That's where the national work was.
Yeah.
You get a campaign for Bissell or a campaign for Dodge or whatever.
People don't realize that. They don't realize what a union town it is for SAG actors too. I mean, there's a lot of work here because of the car companies, and so many of the other companies' headquarters are there.
Yeah.
So we're very lucky. Yeah.
We're very, very lucky. And it really helped me making the transition to other marketplaces to have a sense of like, oh, I did like Not just like, oh, I did a few, you know, regional radio spots for McDonald's or something. It's like, no, national work. And the thing that you know too about this space in particular, Los Angeles and New York, just a tangent, these towns run on confidence. Like you can have all the talents in the world, but if you don't have confidence, you're just gonna struggle.
Yeah, well, they're gonna step all over you.
They are. And then even worse, you'll step all over yourself because you don't feel like you've got you. What is that line? It's in I think it's in Patriot Games where Harrison Ford says, "I'm not coming in here with my hat in my hand."
Right.
And that idea really resonated with me of like, I don't want to come into this marketplace or any marketplace with a sense that I can't that I don't deserve a seat at the table.
And that's what Second City does. And that's why, you know, I came from Strasbourg and improv in New York for National Lampoon, actually, in Los Angeles, and Second City, then Second City in Detroit. But it gives you such a confidence that you can do anything.
That's right.
Because that's what improv gives you. You're up there and you know the basic rules of improv. And if you just follow them, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. So you have this confidence that, I can do that. You know, I can do anything. And it's not a cockiness, it's a confidence. And that's why improvisers get along so well, I think.
I agree.
You know, because the most generous actors to me are improvisers.
I found it to be true too. Improvisers and voice actors. I'm blown away by the generosity of voice actors.
We're going to get there. I can't wait to talk to you about that. So how did you get to Chicago?
Sherry had just wrapped this show. I remember driving back from oh God, I had done a tour for Mazda and then another tour for Chevy. For people who don't know the auto show circuit, and this wasn't for auto show, this was more of a ride and drive event for dealerships. Okay. So load up a bunch of cars on a trailer truck, a bunch of trucks, and then they would head off to Dallas, and we'd be in Dallas for 2 days, and we'd set up tents, and then all the dealers in like 500 miles around would all come to this place, and we would do training for them on the new Chevy Silverado, the new GMC, you know, whatever. And then I would do a 15-minute spiel 8 times a day about accessories.
Oh man!
So that was the gig, and that was the work, and it was a traveling circus, and you're just hotel. And meanwhile, Sherry was working in Alabama Shakespeare in Montgomery. So I would be off on a week and I would fly to Montgomery. They were like, "Where's home?" I was like, "Montgomery." And they were like, "Okay." Be there for a couple of days, and they fly me out. And that worked. And then after the show wrapped, you know, we had a little bit of money in our pocket and work experience. And it was like, okay, that's done. Let's go to Chicago because if we don't, we'll stay. Right. If we can, there's, you know, it felt like thinking in terms of what's next. I remember that it was the day before the 4th of July. So July 3rd, I went and looked for places. I met Randall there. He had just moved, and we went and looked at different apartments while Sherry was still in Montgomery, and I found a place and was like, I think I got it. Let's pull the trigger and do it. So we moved there in August, and within 2 weeks got pregnant. And it was as if the baby was like, I'm waiting for you to get west of Michigan. And then it was, you know, then it was Jeff Rogers and job opportunities, and Second City was great. I met with Ann Libera, like, God, the day after we got into town, and she was like, so you know, Maria Carell speaks highly of you. Mary Scruggs, God rest her soul, speaks highly of you. Joe Jane speaks highly of you. Rob Chambers. So, you know,
what do you need?
What do you need? And I was like, I need a class. And they're like, great. So I started teaching. I taught in the writing program. I taught improv. I directed, you know, the grad reviews. I pitched a class. I pitched my voiceover class a little bit later on, and that took off. So it was really cool to be a part of that, to be a part of Second City Chicago in that way, you know, just with the history of the training center and getting to know Martin a little bit. He had passed before I started.
Martin was great. Martin.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
He was really wonderful man, and great teacher. Gosh. And great really, teacher. You know, we did a couple. It was great that we would
we'd have him come into Detroit.
Yeah.
And he'd teach us.
amazing. And he came, and I think Mick Napier came at one
Yep.
point, and Brad Sherwood came and played with us a couple times. Like, it was like they threw us, you know, different folks to come and just give us great workshops. It was just kind of nice to be thought of, you know.
Avery Shriver would come, who was one of my teachers.
Oh my God, Avery Shriver.
He was my masterclass teacher. He always, he was great, man.
Oh man, I think about you every time I'm in North Hollywood because the street is named after him.
Yeah. Well, he had a theater there. I don't know if he still does. Yeah. Avery Shriver, it was Avery Shriver Theater.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I know that there's like the Avery Shriver block. There's like a sign.
Yeah. He was amazing.
Oh man.
He was amazing. Whenever he'd come to Detroit, I would take him food shopping. And people would be like, you know, is that the Dorito guy? I think it was Doritos he was hawking or something. But he was so talented. You know, when Burns and Schreiber were on Ed Sullivan, supposedly those shows were improvised.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And they did like 40 appearances. Crazy.
Oh my God. That's so amazing.
That's insane. So you're in Chicago working, you're doing corporate theater?
A little bit for Jeff, yes. And then doing a little bit at Second City, trying to kind of get some traction.
Are you booking some other things outside of Second City? Are you booking?
The first year, no. I was really, you know, Chicago's one of those cities, or I found it to be one of these cities that was like, welcome to town, get in line.
Right.
And trying to become the next Pez in the dispenser, for different kinds of work. And you do have to, you know, just, it doesn't matter what you've done elsewhere. You know, like, I'm a main stage alumni. I've done 5 reviews. I did work with this person. They're like, great. Welcome to Chicago. Get in line.
Right.
So,
did Sherry get any work? Any theater work?
Well, Sherry, a little bit, but like when we got pregnant immediately. So it was kind of like, we did a show. Jeff produced a show for Sherry and Randall and myself to produce, to work with Zap Creative to kind of build his brand as well.
Yeah,
and we did that while Sherry was pregnant, which was a trip. And then after that, Sherry got signed by oh my God, by Voices Unlimited and voiceover agency. And she brought my demo reel into them and delivered it. And on the demo reel, I had my headshot on it. And she was like, you need to listen to this. And Linda was like, oh, okay, I'll listen. And then she was in again. And she said, did you listen to his reel? And she was like, I did, but I have this guy. I don't know what to do. Like, I mean, they had Pasquazi, they had, you know, Brandon Eels, they had a bunch of folks. And she was like, just meet him. And then, you know, Peter Carey, Detroit actor, was also listed with them. And he happened to come into the office and he saw my headshot on her desk. He was like, oh, Kiff, he's great. You should listen to that. And she was like, oh, fine. Okay. So a week before Ilsa's born, I get a call. I'm doing a corporate show for Rogers out here in Ojai. And Sherry calls and she's like, you're going to get a call from Linda at Voices Unlimited. She's got an audition for you. I'm like, okay. So I did the audition and sent it in. And then they were like, okay, well, when you come back to town, let's meet. So the day Ilsa was born happened to be the day I had a meeting with them.
Of course.
So the baby comes at 9:25 in the morning. And then I'm sitting there looking at Sherry, like, what do I do? And she's like, go pay for this. So I went down jumped on the red line and went down to Grand and went and met with them and got signed. Within 3 weeks, booked my first national spot in VO for them and for Kentucky Fried Chicken and didn't stop. Like, worked consistently and some really nice major campaigns. Advanced Auto Parts, Denny's started on camera, but then there was also a VO component. Right. US Cellular. I mean, demos upon demos. There was a spot. I remember one of the spots was one of the most lucrative spots I'd ever done was for Corn Pops, where I did some gibberish, and that spot ran for 4 years. It was a breakfast cereal spot. It ran in the morning, so class A. I mean, easily for 5 minutes in the booth, probably cleared $60,000 on that spot.
Wow. So what do you think the difference is to people watching between I say acting and voiceover acting, but what's the big difference, you think?
To me, the biggest difference is proximity to your audience.
Right.
I mean, if I'm playing on stage, I'm playing to the back of the house, right? I'm trying to connect to my scene partner, but I'm also want my voice to be shared. If I don't hear it back off the back wall, I know I'm not loud enough.
Right.
On camera, I'm still connecting to my partner. The mic is here, but I can still, but when I'm working on the microphone, sorry, I have my mic in here right now. I'll adjust it so you can cut that out. But like when I'm working on the mic, my distance to my partner's ear is 5-6 inches.
Right.
And consequently, the nature of the read changes. I'm not any less engaged. I'm still talking to you, but I'm talking to you in a different way. I'm talking to you with different energy because I don't need to be loud. And then if I'm doing a video game or something like that, the approach is going to be way more scenic, way more filmic.
Right. It's so hard because when you're acting in film and television, we can see you.
Yeah.
But you have to do everything with your voice because that's everything. We have to imagine all those things that you show us on stage or on film.
We just have to imagine them.
Right.
As the actor, but the thing is, they're going to create all that. They're going to improve upon what I imagine.
Right.
All I need to do is make it real for myself, and I don't need to be concerned with whether you hear the campfire or not.
Right.
If I feel the warmth from the campfire, I'm like, look, I know you don't think we're gonna make it, but you know what I mean? Whatever that scene that I'm creating in the moment is. But like, if I feel the glow and it's like there's tents and we're getting ready to go do, like, I create that reality for myself and then live in that moment.
Yeah, you're doing sense memory work.
Exactly. That's really the crux of it.
You're doing method voiceover.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Yeah. Do you prefer anything? Like, do you prefer like cartoons over, regular spots, or like, do you have something you really enjoy more?
My favorite thing to do, just because there's a measurable to it, is voice matching celebrities for movies and trailers. And I do probably 40 guys, 45.
Somewhere in my I'm at my cabin, but somewhere at home at the other house is I have your voiceover reel still. I still have it. And I remembered you doing Bruce Willis. I remember you doing all these characters, and it was just phenomenal. Even back then, you were great at it. Yeah, it was always fun.
It's the ear is. Sorry, I got broccoli in my mouth, Rich. I'm in the middle of a conversation. I have a mouthful of broccoli. I don't know why I'm not using it. There it is. So, like finding Tom Hanks, for example. There's Tom Hanks eating broccoli, right? And it's really good. But like that work. The voice matching work is a unique challenge because if it's on, it's on. And there's something that's not subjective about it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, how does that work?
We have 3 lines of dialogue for Iron Man, for Avengers Endgame. Mr. Downey is not available.
Okay.
A. B. We want to change the line. And we're going to have Mr. Downey do this later, but we have a test screening for executives tomorrow. Will you please come in and do these 3 lines? Mr. Downey's not available. We're not going to spend X and so for him for temporary track. We're rewriting. That was a big part, scratch work. Like I did probably 6 or 7 sessions on Doolittle. From the outset, I did the entire script. And then as we went along, would come in, there'd be rewrites. I would do that. And I'm doing it to work print. I'm doing it to storyboards. I'm doing it to all that stuff, just so they have something to edit to.
Right.
So it's scratch work. It's not necessarily very sexy. It might not make the final picture, but I'm still part of the production crew. Absolutely. I still get usage. So that part of it's fun. Sometimes the stuff you do ends up in the final feature. There's like, I do Vince Vaughn in the film Delivery Man, and there's a bunch of Vince Vaughn stuff that was me that made it.
That's awesome.
Like it's crazy how that stuff kind of works. So
do you study specific people, or do you do you all of a sudden just say to yourself, wow, I can, you just find yourself doing it? Or how does that work? How do you know who to do?
When I was driving to Detroit from Cleveland for auditions, I was playing with my voice constantly, just trying to figure out what and I can listen to a guy and go, oh, I can get that. I can figure out what that is. You look at who's working a lot now, like, 5 years ago, Matthew McConaughey was on everything. So everybody's working on the Matthew McConaughey diet, trying to find it, right? Like, and then trying to figure out, like, it might not be the world's best Matthew McConaughey. It might not be 100% a perfect copy. But again, as I described, what the type of work that this is, it doesn't need to be.
Right.
I learned a really important lesson actually speaking with Harrison Ford over chicken skewers.
Was that in Chicago?
No, it was here in LA. My first year in town. I directed a show at Second City in Hollywood, and his goddaughter was in the show, and he came to see it. And then he took us out afterwards for drinks and food, and we're sitting at Bordner's talking, and someone mentioned to him, hey, Harrison, Kiff teaches a voiceover class. And he's like, oh yeah, how do you teach voiceover? And I was like, I'm like Richard Attenborough, Jurassic Park. I'm like, well, welcome to voiceover. It was kind of some sort of quippy thing because I was nervous. And he said, someone needs a class to teach about what to do when you get on set. That'd be a class someone should teach. And I was like, okay, Mr. Set, what's your curriculum for that class?
Yeah.
And he goes, I don't know. 20 minutes later, apropos of nothing, we're in a different conversation. And he leans across the table to me and he goes, here's the thing that no one understands about this business. This is a service industry, and we are in service to the existential truth of the story. And no one's bigger than that. And that's what people need to know about this work. And that idea, as it applies in particular to voice matching, it's not about how great Kiff VandenHeuvel does Harrison Ford. It's about, I'm not playing that. I'm not doing him. I'm playing the character the way a stuntman does, the way a motion capture performer does. We're all working and collaborating together to provide these elements to tell the story of John Thornton and this dog in Call of the Wild. We're all trying to work together to tell the story of Tony Stark in a seamless way. So like if you adapt your thought process into that space, then it's like, it's 100% my favorite part of doing what we do, because it's like, I get to be part of the movie crew. I get to be an essential part of it. Right.
Yeah.
And I didn't know it was a gig. I didn't know it was a thing you could do. And then finding it, discovering it, and doing the work. And there are years where it's the lion's share of my work. There are years where I just have maybe one or two that show up. Yeah. And how this career goes. Sometimes you're swinging in promo, and but it's about putting forth all of the skill sets that you possess and nurturing all of them so that you're prepared for whatever comes, and working, if you feel like, it's kind of like, what was that video game, Rampart, where you have a bunch of walls, and then your enemy would shoot your walls with cannonballs, and then you get in the business of rebuilding your walls. And that's really what you're doing always. You get an audition that pushes you, and you go, I didn't know what I was doing with that. Okay, well, how can I solve that? So the next time that comes, maybe it's method. Maybe I wasn't able to go as deep as I'd like to. Maybe I really need to take a class or two. Maybe I need to work on my singing confidence, because in animation, singing is more and more important. So I've been doing that. I took horseback riding lessons last year just in case, but also ended up falling in love with horseback riding. Like,
that's awesome.
Kind of stuff.
What is the ratio, would you say? I mean, they can't give me an exact ratio, but do you get more voiceover auditions or theatrical?
Voiceover.
Voiceover.
Absolutely. That's,
but you've been in some big movies.
I've been in some big movies.
My goodness. Yeah. Shows. I mean, I saw you in La La Land. That was awesome.
Yeah. That was,
that was a great gig.
That was a great gig.
And I saw you also, you were great in too, was the Liberace thing on HBO.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Boy. That was good.
That was an early one. That was when I met Dan Aykroyd and
super nice guy.
Oh, super nice guy. And
I always told you. I remember I used to tell you, you remind me of him so much. You always reminded me, man. Oh, you still do. I just told
I
my
never, and you know, my one regret is I never told him that I was a Second City guy. I had a small conversation with, I don't know what was wrong with me. I don't know. It's just starstruck, you know? And like when we,
you know, going into them already.
we met, yeah, I know we met at the, we met in the trailer getting makeup. And then we took the bus or took the van over to set. He was riding shotgun, and you know he's a gentleman, so he jumped out and he opened the door and he held his hand out to give you a hand out, but it wasn't a big enough step that you really needed the hand. But
Right.
it's Dan Aykroyd, so I took his hand with my left hand like a dainty princess,
And
and then I stepped under the ground. I was like, "Thank you," and it was so awkward, man. And then like we had an opportunity, we had plenty of opportunities for me to go, oh, by the way, I had a giant poster of you in my bedroom growing up, and
right.
Ghostbusters, Blues, Second City, nothing. I didn't say any of that stuff. I had more to talk about. I ended up talking with Matt Damon a lot more than I did with Dan Aykroyd, which really, I loved. And Matt was great. I had the best time on that shoot. The best time.
Talking about movies, I think we should clear the air now.
Okay.
About a little movie that we were both in for HBO called 61.
61. And I got your credit.
You did get my credit. And I remember being at the Fox Theater and I said, wow, Kiff made the movie. I made the movie.
But you made the movie way more than I made the movie. My scene got cut. Most of the scene that I was in got cut, but your scene was beautiful.
Well, the funny thing about my scene that I was in was, I don't know if I told you the story, but President Bush, who owned a Major League Baseball team at one point, I think it was the Texas team, actually. I might be wrong. Yeah. They were interviewing him, and they said, hey, did you see that movie, 61? And he said, oh, I love the movie. He goes, and it's a clean movie, too, except for this one fella who starts cursing and going crazy. And this is like on live television, and I turn to my wife, and I go, I think he's talking about me.
Yes.
So I go see the movie. Remember, they had a big premiere and everything, and I'm like, okay, here it comes. And I'm like, Kiff.
Detroit fan number 2.
That was hysterical. Yeah. And my character, his name was Brooklyn, so the whole thing got screwed up. I don't even know.
Oh man, it was crazy.
But of course, the funny part was I had to go to SAG then, right?
Yeah.
We talked, and you're like, you've got to call SAG so you get your residuals.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So that was crazy.
Still get my little residual check.
Yeah, me too.
Every once in a while.
Me too.
Fun. Billy was great though. I loved that. It was so much fun to work that job.
It was a great job. It was fun. Oh, man. It was fun. You've done a lot of stuff, my friend.
Yeah.
And you're still doing it.
I'm still doing it. And it's fun. It's thrilling. It's exciting. There's nothing like being able to do what you love doing and what you've trained to do. And I'm so grateful for the encouragement, that bedrock encouragement and confidence that you helped foster in my career at the outset. And your vision, like you had already worked film and TV when you were there, you'd done a ton of stuff. And, you know, in your perspective, and I told you this at the outset too, like you always were saying, man, you got to be thinking about what's next, what's the next thing.
Yeah.
And thinking about Second City way more as a stepping stone and an opportunity to create. Right. And to strengthen your confidence and strengthen your skill, and not as the end of the road. Even though when you're in it, and especially if you're, you know, like I came to it working, I was a multimedia producer.
Yeah, that's right.
Second City, like that gig was like to have that gig, but then to look at that in the grand scheme of things is like, oh my God, no, man, that job was the welcome mat.
Man,
you know what I mean?
It's such an honor to have worked there, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I always feel that way, and I really I wear it. And I said this to Antoine when he did a podcast, and we wear it like a badge of honor. And in 10 years, the amount of people that came out of there that are changing film and television as we know it in our little community is just amazing. I mean,
it's amazing. It's so exciting. It's so exciting to be able to be a part of that legacy, and to be working, and to be, you know, like I ran into and the best part is like intersecting with guys who are like a couple of years down the road. Like I did a Jimmy Kimmel bit with Brandon Johnson, and and we had never, I might have met maybe once or twice, and I see Catherine Worth a lot around town, and I certainly Jamie and Brett Gannell and I mean Sam and Tim Robinson, like you just run into folks, and especially it's been super cool at Second City LA that it's been, see Warzy all the time, and all those cats. It's so great. And Jackson, Mary Beth, Larry, of course, Keegan, everybody. It's just been
great.
Super fun to be a part of that. Yeah.
I'm glad that I was part of working with all of you, honestly.
Absolutely. You were
amazing.
You made, like, one of the things that you did that that was really helpful, like I said, is like you filtered us through this, your instruction and guidance and direction and friendship, like helped take all of us from such disparate experience levels and occupations, and everybody walking through that door with a dream, and like you going, your dream is great, but you need to work, and you need to hone your edge.
Right.
But the first step is we believe in you, because this isn't a path that a lot of people have the luxury of having someone really believe in them to be able to move forward. And when I said earlier about this being about confidence, having someone who has worked, who you think is not only funny, but a gifted director, to say, hey man, I believe in you. You got something. Even when you're down, it still helps you power through that. So I can't thank you enough for what that has been.
Listen,
for me.
Thank you. You don't have to say thank you so much. And I've always said this to you. I said it to your face. I say it behind your back. You worked your butt off, and I always knew that you were going to just keep going, because you were going to. You never. Well, it's what I always say. Well, what is going to be next? We'll keep searching for that until our last breath, because you never get there. And once you think you get there, that's when you're screwed.
That's right. That's right. That's exactly right. I mean, I had one moment where on the first cartoon I did, which was Tom and Jerry, I did 2 characters on a Tom and Jerry, and I'm over at Mark Grau's studios, and the team is on the other side of the glass, and we did a couple takes, and the guy says, okay, hold on real quick. And then my headphones go dead. And I remember looking down at the ground for a second and going, right now, this is the top of the mountain. This is where you've been climbing. And from this point, it's going to move down, and but there's other peaks to climb. Like, I've been able to have that moment doing Han Solo. I mean, I played Han Solo in a cartoon.
Yeah.
And I'm, with Daisy Ridley and John Boyega and BB-8 and Chewbacca and me. And, having those moments, directed by Dave Filoni. Like,
wow.
I mean, just like amazing. Pirates of the Caribbean. I'm a voice of one of the pirates on that ride. And being in the room with these folks going, but the cool thing is no disbelief. That's the other part of it. The confidence in it is not like, I can't believe we're here. Can you believe we're here? But going, this is awesome that we're here.
Right.
And that being the confidence that motivates you to continue to strive on. And, I felt that same way with every show we opened, with every great rehearsal, with every laugh you get in an improv set. Like, because you earn them, and working on that stuff, and every great class, and being a teacher and trying to pass that same confidence and legacy along. I don't know. It's a tremendous honor, and this is a service industry, and stay in service.
Well, listen, you deserve everything, and I wish nothing but the best. I really appreciate you coming on. I really do, buddy.
Dude. Thank you so much for having me on, dude. Anytime. It's just great to be able to reconnect and see your face.
Absolutely. We'll see each other.
Yeah, no doubt, man. Awesome.
All right. Good luck.
Thank you. You too.
Take care.
You bet.